Has the ability to distill the best information and the strategies available and make it very doable for us. And then he adds in his own street-tested principles and success to mentor millions of people so that they can achieve success. Before Darren comes on the stage, we have a short video that we'd like to show.
There's an accident on the freeway that has your body just 12 days. Just call now and it should be alright. That's right, 2 minutes of explosions just noticed our heart will use well, guess what? Also needs to not There are 3 suspects now. No one seems to have predicted this, so it's hard to know where it's at. Chances are
it's time to take back control of your mind so that you can take back your life. What controls your attention controls your life.
For an ambitious entrepreneur, this is your time of greatest opportunity. The national economy, what's going on in world affairs, does not have to become your personal reality. Let others lead small lives, but not you. Have it be said of you that you did the best you could with what you had. Now is the time to do something different. No matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future. I'm telling you, the beliefs that you have about your potential, the beliefs of what you can and can't do, what you're good at and not good at, are made up. My challenge to you is this: make now your turning point. This moment, what you've accomplished so far is only a fraction of what's truly possible for you. You are far more powerful, capable, and gifted than you allow yourself to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, publisher of Success Magazine, Darren Hardy.
Thank you for that. Well, good morning. Wow, you guys look good. You work out? All right. So, as publisher of Success Magazine, I have a question I'm compelled to ask you. And that is, why are you not more successful than you are right now? Now, don't get me wrong, you guys have done some amazing things. 50% growth year over year, amazing. But let's have a very candid conversation. It is really just a fraction of what you're really capable of. Most of you, your results are nowhere near what your true potential is. And so what is it that keeps holding you back? Let me ask you a question. How many people here, no matter how successful you are right now, want to be more successful? Okay. So why aren't you? What's stopping you? So I've asked that question to the 3 million readers in Success Magazine, stages all over the world. Let me clear up for you what I keep hearing as the #1 myth for why people say they are not more successful than they are right now. First of all, how many of you had a very nice, normal, and happy childhood? How many? Wow, okay, a lot of you. Huh. Well, good for you, okay? Because my childhood sucked. And my parents, they divorced when I was 18 months old. And my mother, she didn't want me, so she just gladly and very enthusiastically handed me over to my father. In fact, when she first found out from the doctor that she was pregnant with me, her reaction was disappointment and anger. And then when I was born, and they decided to split, she just handed me over. So my father at the time, you have to know, was only 23 years of age, okay? He didn't know what the heck he was doing either. He had just moved from the San Francisco Bay Area to what seemed like the middle of nowhere, Albuquerque, New Mexico, to take a job. I know, Presbyterian Hospital, my Bethlehem. He took a job as an overworked, underpaid university football coach. And so it was just he and I out there by ourselves with him trying to figure it out. So this was his parenting philosophy. He would just shove me in the corner of a couch, barricade me with pillows to try to keep me and put headphones on my head to try to keep me quiet. You see the stunned look I had on my face? I had that most of my childhood. It became, you learned really quickly in life that you kind of had to fend for yourself. To say my dad wasn't the nurturing type is almost comical. He was known affectionately around our house as a bit Neanderthal, and he actually parented like he coached football, which meant there was no whining, no crying, no excuses, lots of yelling and lots of cursing. In fact, you remember the movie Full Metal Jacket? Sergeant Gunnery? That could have been my father's twin, and I basically grew up in a boot camp, so to speak. And my father, he was infamous, let's say, for one of his coaching philosophies, and that was no matter how hurt a player got on the field, they were not allowed to come out of the game during the game. And so one time this linebacker just gets smashed in the middle of the field, wobbles to the sideline, begs my dad to take him out of the game, and my dad grabs him by the face mask, the teeth clenched, spitting through them, not unless you're showing bone. And he pulled back his shoulder pad, and out from his neck skin was sticking his collarbone. So anytime any of us kids said, Dad, we're sick, we can't go to school, he'd yell from the other side of the house, what? Not unless you're showing bone. And we'd have to drag our sorry butts out to school. When I was 4 years of age, he married my stepmonster. Did not mispronounce that. And they went on to have 2 other children, and because in her eyes I was of the other woman, she did everything she possibly could to try to ostracize me from the family at every turn. I was literally a redheaded stepchild. And you can see my father cut my hair, which I think I suffer more emotional trauma from than anything else. Now I tell you all this to tell you this. I stand before you this morning as the high-functioning achiever because of this highly dysfunctional childhood. You see, because I had to get over these issues of abandonment is the reason why I'm so vigorously self-reliant. Because I had this football coach, Neanderthal-like father, is the reason why I'm so driven. Because you had to achieve in order to get any love or attention in our house is also the reason why I'm so goal-oriented and ambitious. You see, these are the training tools that have helped me build the muscles that I have today in order to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish. You see, a lot of people look at their past as wounds that they need to heal from, right? When in actuality, they're muscles that you develop. See, how do you develop a muscle? Talking to Beachbody. How do you develop a muscle? You put it under incredible stress and strain, over and over. Stress, strain. You're actually tearing the muscle fiber. And then in rest and recovery, it grows back bigger than it was before. Which means the next time you can lift heavier weights, you could do greater things because you've had that muscle development. Now you can go and do extraordinary things that ordinary people just can't do. So the first key lesson for you here is to understand that your adversity is in fact your advantage. And I hope that your childhood sucked. Or I hope something in your life has really been tough, difficult, strainful, and stressing, so that you can grow the muscles that you need to go do the extraordinary things ordinary people can't do. You see, my mentor, Jim Rohn, said people carry their past around like a billy club that they just keep beating themselves over the head with, when in fact that was the training ground to give you the development necessary to go do extraordinary things. So I've been asked to come here to talk to you about how to ignite the principles of the compound effect. Even if you've read the book, how to ignite those principles so that you can lay a clear path in front of you, connect the dots, and get the kind of results that you're truly capable of. Unleash that true potential so you can do those extraordinary things. So I get asked the question all the time, what was the premise? Why did I decide to sit down and write this book? And it was really when we first took over Success Magazine, and I started looking at the culture and society around us to try to figure out what is it that's hindering people? What's stopping them from being able to realize this greater potential that they've got? And I realized that our society and culture is misleading, bamboozling, fooling, and tricking people on an ongoing and regular basis. You see, we're constantly bombarded with ever increasingly sensational claims to get rich, get fit, get younger, get sexier, all overnight, with very little effort, for only 3 easy payments of $39.95. And these marketing gimmickry messages are taking people who have a sincere interest in what does it take for me to provide more for my family, so that I can become healthier, so that I can grow and do better and experience the life that I was designed to live, and they're constantly being derailed and distracted by these messages. And we all know that there is no secret formula to it, right? There's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill. And for God's sakes, people, there's no frickin' secret. That's been buried for 2,000 years by some covert society and only unearthed recently for worldwide revelation. So now you can just sit on your couch and just imagine checks coming into your mailbox. As my father would say, "Are you shitting me?" That's not how it works. You see, I do think that there is a new secret, and I've decided to here on this stage, I'm going to release the new forgotten secret the last 20 to 30 years of what it takes to actually earn success. And it's 3 little words: hard freaking work. That's the only thing that's going to cause anybody to become successful, get fit, get healthier, and experience the kind of life that they're capable of. The truth about earning success is this: it is mundane. When you go back to your offices on Monday and you start building your business and talking to people, what you've got to do is awfully mundane. It is unexciting. Nobody's going to film you building your business and start some new fantastic reality TV show because it's so amazingly exciting. No, it is unsexy, no matter what the commercials will show you. It is frustrating, and sometimes it's heart-stomping, gut-kickingly defeating. But hey, that doesn't make for interesting books, or exciting infomercials, or riveting movies. So yet we're paraded with all these other shiny objects and illusions about the pathway to success. So one of the first important messages that I want to convey to you is this: truly stop looking for the quick fix for success, happiness, and health. There is no shortcut. There are no cliff notes. There is no quick fix. And quite frankly, if there's an organization that knows it, it is this organization. They asked me, do you do any of our programs? I'm like, are you kidding me? That stuff's way too hard, man. Insanity. Here's how it works. Success is earned one day at a time. Every day you lift your head up off the pillow. You decide that day whether you are a success or mediocre or a failure. Every step you take from that bed through your day, you are defining whether you are a success, a mediocre, or whether you are a failure. Every decision is like a chisel mark on the slab of marble of your day. And you will either end up with the David or you'll end up with a pile of rubble at the end of the day. Every phone call that you make, the one that you don't want to make, that you should make, that makes your palms sweat a little bit, every one of those is defining whether you are or are not a success. Every meeting, the choice to come, not come, to be here, to not be here, to this event, is defining whether you are releasing the inner potential you've got inside you. Every single meeting, even though you've done it 100 times, do you go, do you not go, is a defining moment. And then, ultimately, you can never own success. I saw all these award winners here on the stage. I see a lot of you who are fantastically successful in this organization. But you can never own success. You can only rent it. And the rent is due every single day. So how many of you have ever been to a seminar, read a book, or a CD program, and on the back of it said, okay, transformational results in 90 days or less, and at the end of 90 days, you did not experience transformational results. Anybody have that experience? Okay, yeah, me too. Why? What is it that didn't work? Well, here's another American myth that I want to clear up. Knowledge is not power. It is the potential of power, but it is not power in and of itself. It's not what you know that determine your results. It's what you do with what you know that determine your results. You see, there are a lot of broke geniuses in our society. A lot of people who know a lot of stuff about a lot of things and are broke because they apply none of it to their personal life. I love this stat here. 44% of doctors who are academically trained professionally dispense the advice of how poor eating and lack of exercise will kill you. 44% of them are overweight. Or as the philosopher Morpheus said, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, right? So as I go through these fundamental concepts of what entails creating great success, I don't want to have this happen. In your mind, I don't want you to say, oh, I already know that. Instead, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, am I doing that? Because you might know it, but you might not actually be doing it. And the second thing is I'm doing it, but have I mastered it? Have I reached the highest level of execution on that idea? And the third, really most important question to ask yourself is, would my results prove that I've mastered it? Would my waistline prove that I've mastered it? Would my bank account prove that I've mastered it? Would the size of my organization, the intimacy of the relationships in my life prove that I've mastered it? If we called your spouse, would they say, oh yeah, they've in fact mastered all the principles of success? And if you're sitting there going, well, just don't call my spouse, then there's still something here yet to learn, to master, and to apply. As Samuel Johnson said, people need to be reminded more often than they need to be instructed. So if we could just take some things that you've heard or you know in the back of your mind and bring them to the front of your mind, clear of the clutter of all the rest of that confusing and bamboozling stuff and give you a clear pathway towards success. Now we can ignite those principles in your life and you can take them to any height, maybe even one day to the cover of Success Magazine. So I want to give you what I call the operating system underneath which all success is built on top of. It's kind of like this. You could have the world's greatest software, designed by the greatest engineers, tens of millions of dollars invested into it, and if you install that software on a computer that has a faulty operating system, what happens? It's buggy, it crashes, it doesn't work. Now the user can often make the mistake of saying, oh, it was that crappy software, that's what didn't work. No. This is the same thing that happens when you read a book, you go to a seminar, or you listen to a CD program, and it gets installed on your hard drive. The user makes the mistake of saying, oh, that book didn't work, that seminar didn't work. No. It was just installed on a crappy operating system. So if we can get your operating system at world-class standards, so that no matter what's installed on it, it will operate at its full potential. Now we can install the leadership software, the sales software, the presentation communication software, the marriage software, the parenting software, the physical fitness, the coaching software, and now it will actually perform to its capability. So that's what we're after here. I want to show you a system that will enable you to achieve goals that when you walked in here this morning, you were too afraid to set. Now, why would you be afraid to set the kind of goals that are actually in alignment with your true potential? Here's my belief. Because you don't see how it's possible. You don't see how you could do it. It just seems fantastical and silly. But I believe that if I can show you an exact pathway, an exact system, an exact formula, all you got to do is connect the dots. All of a sudden, you're empowered and inspired to set the kind of goals that are actually in alignment with your true capability, which is far greater than your current level of performance. So that's what we're after here. This is a working session. I'm not the only one up here working. I encourage you to take notes. You're not going to be able to get this all down. I'm going to go through 200 slides. I want to give you as much as I can in a short period of time. So what I will do later is I'll show you how you can download this whole slide deck. So you have everything here. So let me show you how committed I am to investing in your results. Okay, guys, I love Beachbody. I love the leaders that are a part of this organization. I love what you guys are about. I really do. I'm not just saying that. Okay, so I'll give you a recording of this entire presentation so that you can share with your team. Okay? So for now, I just want you to listen really intently and say, what things strike you? What are those aha moments like, that's it. Okay, that was the last number I needed in the tumbler to unlock my potential. Okay, so just really be here with me. Figure out what the 1 or 2 things, and you'll have all this backup for you later. So here's the operating system, okay? Between you and whatever goal you've got is this operating system. And line item by line item, we're gonna rewire the code system to your operating system, get it operating at world-class standards. No matter what your goal is, fund your kids' college fund, retire your parents, buy a new car, home, travel, get to the top of this organization is on the other side of this operating system. So let's start at the very baseline. What is the root control factor for all your results in life? If I were to boil down the principles of success down to one thing, the core, where it all begins, where it all emanates from, what is that? In other words, we all come into this world exactly the same. Naked, scared, and ignorant. Some of us a little uglier. I mean, you saw my baby photo, right? Didn't start out good. And then what you do thereafter defines the outcomes of your life. So ask yourself, what's the one thing that determines whether at the end you end up living here or you end up living here? There's only one thing. There's only one thing that will determine the difference between whether you end up driving this or whether you end up driving this. After you come in naked, scared, and ignorant, you are either going to end up in a long life where at the end you end up broke, despondent, and lonely, or you end up in a marriage of 50 years of incredible bliss and deep intimacy. Or D, you're either going to be able to send your children to the greatest universities in the world, or no matter what it is they qualify for, they can't go because you can't afford to send them. Only one thing will determine whether you can donate to your charity to your greatest heart's content, travel the world in fantastic luxury. As Curly from City Slicker said, right? It all comes down to the one thing. What's the one thing? Holy crap, I'm glad I came today. Your entire life is going to come down to one thing, and you don't know what the one thing is. Here's what it is. It all comes down to choices. Right now, as you sit there in this chair, right now, you are nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made up to this point. Your whole life is nothing but that. Your waistline is nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made up to this point. The intimacy of the relationships in your life, nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made. Your income, the size of your organization, your bank account, nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made. So if we're going to change the trajectory of your life, starting today, we have to go down to the core root cause of it all, and that is your choices. So now you might be asking, so choices is the first line of code in the operating system. You might be asking, what choices? Because we're faced with hundreds of choices all day throughout the day. What choices matter the most? How many people here have ever been bit by an elephant? No? Mosquito. Anybody ever been bit by a mosquito? It's considered to be the #1 deadliest animal on the planet to the human species. See, nature provides clues. It's always the little things in life that will bite you and ultimately get you. The question I'm asked most often is, okay, you see these people that are in the cover of Success magazine. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and we only get to pick 12 each year to be on the cover of Success magazine. So the question is what is it that these 12 people did differently than 7 billion to get them on the cover of Success magazine? So let me first start with the things that they didn't do, because these are the myths that people believe these people did in order to get on the cover of Success magazine. So here's not the key to their great success. Any heroic feats. Nobody you see on the cover of Success magazine would be deemed a hero. They didn't do anything heroic. They also didn't perform any grand acts of bravery. This is another legend and myth in American culture, which is just leap and hope that the net appears. Oh, don't do that. Because you'll bounce really hard. Uh-oh, I just crushed my dealio. Let me go fix that. See what happens when you leap? Oh, crashed it. Oh, now it's pissed. I'm sorry. All right. We good? They did not have any quantum leap. You know, that thing where right place, right time, just all matter of factor of timing. There wasn't any quantum leaps involved. And here's what it was a result of. If you want to know how to get on the cover of Success magazine or any fantastic success, this is the formula. Success is a result of small, seemingly insignificant, in the moment to moment choices. Small little choices, like, hey, at lunch, you go into a restaurant, you're presented with a menu, and a menu is what? Choices. Just a whole collection of choices. Do you choose the hamburger and fries, or do you choose the salad? Now that doesn't seem to be like a Success magazine cover, a worthy decision. I'm telling you, it is. Small little choices like, Oh, now you're gonna be fickle, huh? At the end of a long, hard day, do you stop by the gym and put in a workout, or do you rush home to catch your favorite sitcom? Dances with the Stars, or American Idol, or all the rest of this, where you watch other people living out their dream. Small choices like in the middle of an argument, do you spin on your heels and say, I've had enough, I'm not talking to you anymore, and walk out of the room? Or do you spin on your heels, say you're sorry, and choose to make a moment of magic? Small little choices like in a networking event, do you walk across the room and introduce yourself to that person that you're intimidated to meet, or do you hunker down in fear one more time? Small choices like at the end of a long day, do you put in a few more calls, or do you simply just call it a day? You see, these small choices add up to big differences in results. Let me give you a for instance. If I give you the choice of a penny, a copper penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or $1 million in cash right now, how many people pick the $1 million in cash? Okay, tough crowd. All right, let me sweeten the offer. Yeah, all right, well, for those who haven't, write your book. That's good. If you've been to the movie, don't shout it out to the rest of the crowd. All right, 2 million. Anybody at 2 million? There's a time when this math's going to change on you here, right? 3 million. How many people pick 3 million over the penny? Well, you're so smart, you knew, but your neighbor did not know. So let's take the difference between you and your neighbor, right? Because this is the way, and what I want you to discover is not the actual math, but the experience that goes along with the process of making one choice over another. You see, let's say you pick the penny, and you're 5 days into it, and your lousy penny's only 16 cents. Meanwhile, your neighbor is partying like a rock star next to you because they picked $3 million. And you're going, this doesn't seem like a wise choice. 10 days later, your penny's turned into $5.12, not enough for a Happy Meal, not that you'd ever order one of those. But your neighbor is out on the water on a yacht with Robin Leach, drinking champagne and having caviar wishes, right? Day 20, your penny's $5,242. All along the way, they got $3 million having a grand old time. Well, you know, and wise enough to know, that your penny at the end of 31 days turns to $10,737,000. Now here's the key point. This is the reason why Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Because the math between day 1 and day 2 is exactly the same math between day 30 and day 31. But the results that are visible are dramatically different. Which means that the choices you're going to make here today, this afternoon, is the same choices you'll make 20 years down the road. But the differences that those choices will have on the compound effect of your results will be dramatically different. More practically put, 3 friends start out exactly the same place. They all make $50,000 a year, they move to the suburbs, they bought a house, white picket fence, 2.2 children, right? They're all starting off exactly the same. Now, Scott goes through the airport, finds a Success magazine tucked in the backseat of a pocket of a plane, not something he normally reads. He starts flipping through it, gets inspired to try a couple of things. Here's what Scott's going to do. Instead of getting up in the morning and reading about all the murders, tragedies, and corruption that's happening in the world in the newspaper, he's going to get up and just read 10 pages of a good book every single night. Every morning, something positive, something instructional, something informative. Instead of listening to drive time yak radio on the way to the office, he's going to put in a CD, something positive, something inspirational, something that is instructional for him. He's going to take 125 calories out of his diet. That's it. That's a half a candy bar or a small bowl of cereal. No rash diet. He's not going to go on some incredible fitness program. He's going to drink 2 bottles of water a day. He's going to park at the back of the parking lot and walk in. He's going to miss a few, he's going to make a few more calls at the end of the day, and he's finally going to make his weekly date night with his wife a priority, okay? That's all Scott's going to do. That's his entire success plan. Now, how many people believe they could do Scott's plan? Sure. Easy, right? Now, Larry's just going to keep being Larry, okay? Larry's like most people, status quo. Brad's just going to start making some slight, seemingly insignificant poor choices. Here's what he's going to do. He's going to munch on a little bit of junk food around the office. You know the chocolate-covered pretzels at the end of the secretary's desk? A half a handful of chocolate-covered peanut M&Ms. That's all he's going to add into his diet. He's gonna miss a couple of workouts a week. He's gonna drink more Diet Coke than water, God forbid. He's gonna move around a little less because he's working at his computer most of the day. He's gonna skip a prospecting call or two. And he's gonna give the cold shoulder to the spouse, to his wife at home, just a few times throughout the week. No big deal. We're not gonna call Jerry Springer over to come and fill this domestic situation. Just a cold shoulder a few times throughout the week. Now, as you start to add up the differences between these choice structures, here's what it starts to look like. 5 months down the road, absolutely no difference between these three friends. 10 months down the road, absolutely no difference, mathematically, visible, or otherwise. Now, Scott's going, what is going on? I'm reading this book every morning, I'm listening to these CDs, I'm doing this damn date night every week with my wife. My buddies are sloughing off and we have exactly the same results. You can see how people get faked out. Now, 20 months down the road, 20 months of these sustained choice structures, slight, Brad's starting to feel it in the belt a little bit, tension and anxiety started to set in at the office, apathy has started to set in at home. Now, the neighbors and friends, they really can't tell, but there's just an undercurrent that started to take place. It's not until 27 months down the road that the differences between these three friends are dramatic. Let's add it up. Here's what Scott's done in 27 months. He's read 47 books on success and achievement. Now, most people who graduate with a university degree don't read 3 books the rest of their entire life. He read 47 in 27 months. Listened to 465 hours of success and achievement audio just while driving around the last 27 months. The 125 calories he cut out of his diet means that he lost 33.5 pounds. I spent the day with Dr. Oz a few months ago. Do you realize that we could end, this is what he said, we could end obesity in America today if everybody just took 125 calories off their base diet. That's all it takes. Drinking more water, he drank 3,700 gallons of water. He walked 900 miles, which means he lost another 30 pounds. The 125 date nights with the wife, I had photos with that. It got risque, let me say. He made 1,860 extra calls that he wouldn't have made if he closed 3% of those, which means he didn't learn anything from those books or audios. He increased, on top of his $50,000 a year income, an additional $279,000. How small, seemingly insignificant, and easy choices add up over time. Now, Larry is like most people in America, just doing what he's always been doing, treading water, falling a little bit further behind, becoming disenchanted, bored, apathetic, and passionless, and blaming Obama, right? Brad's results look like this. The 125 calories he added to his diet means that he added 33.5 pounds. Missed a couple of workouts, more Diet Coke, now he's under cardiac arrest danger. Missed a few meetings, made a few less calls, now he's on the verge of being fired or under financial emergency. The inattention and cold shoulder to the spouse means that apathy is deep and he's on the brink of divorce. Small, poor choices added up over time. Now, if you want to copy these slides, this is a simple thing. All you do is just text your name and email address to that phone number, okay? And it will send you a link where there's the video, the audio, the slides, and worksheets to go along with this whole thing. And the full presentation is 90 minutes, so you'll get the whole thing versus even what I'm doing for you here, okay? So if you want to write it down, it's 510-296-6208. But you have to do it in 48 hours, otherwise it gets transferred to a future audience that I'm talking to, okay? And it's over in the corner if you didn't get it. So all of this seems relatively easy. This is the big conundrum. Why do people still fail and go about making poor choices? Well, here are 4 traps that you will face. These traps are outside this conference hall right here. These traps are in your home, they're in your office, they're in your car. So I want to point these traps out so that you don't accidentally step in them and then get yourself derailed and go back to making poor choices. So these are the 4 traps that we're all faced with. The first thing is this. In the moment that you're making the decision, the consequences or the result or the outcome are absolutely invisible. And this is why people get faked out. Now, I could change your choice structure like this if I had the ability to take the space-time continuum and collapse it. Which means you're making this choice right now, that choice stretched out over 10, 15, 20 years. If I could collapse it, you would make a different choice, I promise. For instance, let's say At lunch, you did pick the hamburger and fries. And I took the space-time continuum of that choice, and I showed it to you now, and your gut explodes, your heart explodes in your chest, and you drop to the ground in a heart attack. Would you lose the taste of hamburger pretty quickly? Well, what if you woke up the next morning like this? How do you get like that? Well, it's one hamburger bite at a time, over time. Or let's just say that, you know, you're out with your girlfriends and you don't smoke, but you're having a good time, and they're like, hey, just try this. And you're like, we're having a good time, I'll try it. And you breathe it in, you finish the cigarette, you're like, wow, you know what's funny is I actually feel better after smoking a cigarette than I did before. Maybe it's the first time you breathe deeply in a long time, right? But what if I could take the space-time continuum and collapse it, and the next morning, you woke up like this? Or let's take a look at this young man, all right? So he tries his first cigarette. He's getting all this positive affirmation. His buddies think he's cool. He's a rebel. He's doing it behind the school and all the rest of this. I mean, it looks like a young James Dean, right? But what if I could take the space-time continuum, show him his future self, and have him talk to him right now? What would he tell his future self? Put it down. But you see, all along the way, it didn't look like it was having that big of an effect on his life. It's not till the very end that we see the dramatic impact of those small little choices. For instance, now I'm from San Diego, and we just had a very tragic situation happen. This man right here, Jesus, his name escapes me. Tony Quinn was drafted in 1981, third pick in Major League Baseball. And he played for the San Diego Padres for 20 years straight. One team, he's only one of two players that ever did that, and had an illustrious career. During his playing years, he started doing chew tobacco that he put in the right side of his cheek. And he ended up, for 20 years, it had no consequence to him whatsoever. Didn't notice the impact of it at all. That's what I'm telling you. During the span, you notice nothing. He even finished and with legendary status, inducted into the Hall of Fame with Cal Ripken, unanimous decision, one of the greatest hitters to ever play the game of baseball. And then in 2010, and then he went on to coach baseball for his alma mater for 12 more years. All along the time doing this chew tobacco, having no impact on him whatsoever. And then in 2010, he was diagnosed with lymphomic or salivary gland cancer. And they had to remove the tumor. He lost the ability to even move the right side of his face, blink his eye, and the rest of it. This was one of the last known photos of him. And just this week, at age 54, he died. Now, all along the way, you didn't see the impact of that choice. It wasn't until the last 4 years where it went like that you saw the results. Let's say you promised to make a few prospecting calls every single day, and you're like, today I got a headache, I got to pick up the kids, I got to get dinner started. I'll make up for it tomorrow. And we call on the Donald, you're fired from Beachbody, and your house goes up on the chopping blocks. Or let's say you're in the middle of an argument, you're like, I know we promised we'd never go to bed angry, but I just can't deal with this tonight. We'll talk about it in the morning, and you go sleep in the guest bedroom, and the next morning you wake up to divorce papers, and you've got to look your little girl in the eye and explain why you couldn't make a different choice. You see, all the choices we make have, to put into another terms, a butterfly effect in your life. You guys know what the butterfly effect is, right? Butterfly flaps its wings in one area, and then a tsunami happens on the other side of the planet. Same thing happens in your life. A little butterfly choice of a flap of a wing happens over here, and 10, 15, 20 years down the road, there's a tsunami in your life. Positive or negative? So the first thing I need to tell you about this trap is, while you are going along, you have to be patient. When you start making positive choices, you will not see the evidence of a positive result at all for a very, very long time. Just have patience. Here's trap number 2. When you change your trajectory, it's subtle and deceptive. You won't even notice that you're going in a different direction. For instance, let's say that we took a plane and we're taken from LAX to LaGuardia. And when it's on the tarmac, its nose is pointed directly at LaGuardia, okay? And it's only off by 1 degree. That's from here to here. You see that? From here to here. See that? Yeah, in other words, not much. By the time it gets all the way across the country, it'll end up 2 states away, 150 miles off of its intended course. This is what happens in people's lives. They get 10, 15 years down the road and then they go, what happened? How did I get so fat? How did I end up divorced? This is the person I call the love of my life. How did I end up bankrupt? I don't remember making any colossal mistakes. So you see, you might not have. You might have only been 1 degree off, 1 degree. And that 1 degree traveled over 10, 15, 20 years, and you're 150 miles off of your intended course. So just like a plane, at the nose, it has a gyroscope in order to keep itself on track. So if weathered, rerouted traffic patterns, it's constantly locking back onto its intended target. So you literally could fly at 3,000 miles across the country and it can hit the exact runway it was intended to hit, no matter what happens in between. You see, you need a gyroscope for your life too, so that no matter what happens along the journey, you can hit your intended target. But I warn you, life on the ground looks a little bit more like this. A double black diamond ski run. And you're at the top, and your intended target is that chair in front of the cozy fire with a warm cup of hot cocoa. And if you just go straight at it, what's gonna happen? Yeah, it's gonna get ugly, right? So what happens is you start along your journey, and then you get hit by a mogul, and it pushes you off to the right. Now, most people just ski right off the damn mountain. What you're gonna do is adjust, make a turn, and you're gonna be going along, and you're gonna get hit by another mogul, and you're gonna adjust, and you're gonna get hit by another mogul. If you notice the trajectory, look at the trajectory. Notice that you are off track more than you're on track. But you could still end up in the exact chair in front of the fire, cup of hot cocoa in your left hand. How? By getting back on track. The only difference is how long it takes for you to get there, is by how much time you spend off track. Because the time off track and the time to get back on track are times that are lost. And so that's how it ends up working out on the ground. Here's number 3. And this is a big one. Immediate gratification. As a culture and a society, we've become addicted to immediate gratification. We want what we want, when we want it, and we want it now. We've become very impatient, and we're constantly trying to pleasure ourselves at every moment. So here's what it looks like. Let's say that you're presented with a choice. At the end of a nice meal, you can have warm, grandma-made chocolate cake or a glass of water. That's your choice. Now, what do you get if you choose the warm chocolate cake? What do you get? Joy. Joy is what you get. An oral sensation like none other. That's what you get. Now, what do you get if you choose the glass of water? Nothing. Buckets. That right there is the greatest challenge that you will ever face your whole life long. And that is, when you make a poor choice, you're rewarded. When you make a good choice, you get nothing. And that will be the challenge that you will be faced with all day, every single day. And we come by this desire to pleasure ourselves very early in life. You see, all day we're walking through a minefield of solicitations on our desire to immediately gratify ourselves. And it requires you having this steadfast will of control, this self-control in order to sustain your intended positive choice structure. Here's the great paradox that you're faced with. What gives you short-term pleasure? A chocolate cake, saying, no, I don't want to deal with this right now, and walking out of the room, right? Going home instead of working out creates long-term pain. On the other side of the equation, short-term pain, making the phone call, going to the meeting, creates long-term pleasure. My mentor, Jim Rohn, put it this way. He said, in life, you will suffer one of 2 pains. Right there's great wisdom. You have to hear it. In life, you will suffer. Yeah, stop trying to avoid that deal. You will suffer. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. You get to pick your suffering. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And as he said, the pain of discipline weighs ounces. Picking up the phone, going to the meeting, saying you're sorry. However, the pain of regret weighs tons. Divorce, bankruptcy, headache, heartache, lost and estranged relationships. So as you are going through this minefield of solicitations on your weakest part of your nature, you have to keep these things in mind. As Oprah said to me, I said, so what are some of the ways that you're working to try to change the course for you? She says, the hardest thing is that if I make a poor choice, I'm gratified. If I make a good choice, I get nothing. And so I had to decide, what can I get if I make a good choice? She says, I decided that if I made a good choice, it's a miracle. I'm gonna make a miracle. She says, because if I don't choose the chocolate cake, it's a miracle! And at least I can say, instead of the chocolate cake, I'm choosing a miracle. And she says, all I'm trying to do throughout the day is to be a miracle maker. And at the end of the day, I count up how many times today did I make a miracle, which for her was a positive choice that gave her no physical or emotional or psychological reward. She's giving her the emotional and psychological reward of a miracle. So I pass that advice on to you because I think it's very helpful. The last trap, and this is what it is. What's easy to do, and everything I've told you here is easy, is also easy not to do. And this is really something that trips people up. Because it's so easy, they disregard it. And they think, oh, well, it can't be that easy, so I'm going to go over here and chase these more complicated and fanciful answers. You see, it's easy to eat an apple a day. It's easy to walk around the block for your good health. It's easy to say you're sorry, pick up the phone and make calls, write thank you letters, drink 10 glasses of water a day. All those things are easy, but they're also easy not to do. And that's what gets neglected. Neglecting the easy things is what separates. So what follows choices? When you ultimately decide to do something different, what has to happen after that? So you can't just sit on your couch saying, I'm making a different choice, I'm making a different choice. You have to get up off the damn couch, go out the front door and make something happen. So behavior is the next line of code in the operating system. The biggest problem with behavior is this. 95% of our behavior is totally and completely unconscious, which means we're not making a decision about it at all. You see, when you first learn to drive a car, everything is, you're dealing with it in real time, and everything seems complicated, but today you can drive, have a conversation, eat, put on your makeup, God forbid, text, without thinking about it at all. You see, 95% of all your behavior is completely unconscious. You're not thinking about it. People actually get up off the couch, go to the refrigerator, take food out, eat it, and consume it without actually being consciously aware that they have just done that. Take money out of their wallet, spend it, unconscious about what they've actually done. So the first thing you have to do is to get an awareness. I'll give you for instance from me. So when I was 20 years of age, I was in the real estate business. First year, I did really well, and I'm sitting in front of the desk of my CPA, and he's punching in all the numbers, and the ticker tape's going like this, and he's having a grand old time, snickering and laughing. And at the end of it, he says, congratulations, son, you owe over $100,000 in taxes. And I said, what? I don't have $100,000 just lying around. He says, why? You earned several times that. Of course you set aside the money to pay your taxes. And I said, well, look at me. Does it look like I have set aside that money? And then he did me a great favor. He pushed himself from his desk. He stood up and he pointed his finger at me and he said, son, you have to get a grip. I've seen this 1,000 times. You continue on this current trajectory and you will dig your financial grave with your wallet. Stop it. And he put his finger on what has become the most powerful personal development tool I've ever discovered. Now you gotta know, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I've bought, tried, sent every personal development tool under the sun, and this is the most important one. He put his finger on a 50-cent notepad, and he slid it across the table. And he said, I want you to write down every single penny you spend for the next 30 days. He said, I don't care if it's a pack of gum at the convenience store, you fill up the air of tires with 50 cents, you buy a round of drinks for your buddies, $2,000 for a new suit, it all goes on this little notepad. And I said, yes, sir. And literally, it wasn't a week and a half, 2 weeks into it when I realized, oh my God, how money had been just pouring out of my pockets without me even knowing it. And by having to actually track it, see it visibly, it changed my behavior from that point forward. And so I went from earning a lot of money to being worth a lot of money on the same money because I got an awareness about the behavior I had with money. And so that's the first suggestion when it comes to changing your behavior. The second one is this. I learned this from Jim Rohn, and I met him in 1994, totally changed my life. And I'm in this seminar, and he says, how many people here, want to have more? And I think, oh Jesus, what do I got to do now? I'm just killing myself already. What do I got to do? Yeah, I asked, of course I want to have more, but what do I have to do? And he said, look, it's not what you do, it's who you become. Success is not a pursuit. What you pursue can elude you. It's the person you become in the process. He said, if you want to have more, you have to become more. Success is not something you pursue. What you pursue eludes you. He said it could be kind of like trying to chase butterflies. He said instead, success is something you attract by the person you become. So let me give you a for instance. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was complaining about his wife going, oh, she doesn't do this, and I can't believe what she does. It drives me crazy. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop. This woman is fantastic, and you're a boob. You're lucky she even married you. And that was the truth. And I said, let me tell you something that I did. Let me explain to you. So everybody loves Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. Why? Food, family, and gratitude. What could be more awesome than that? One year, I'm writing out all my Thanksgiving cards. I don't send Christmas cards. I send Thanksgiving cards to the people in my life that matter the most. And I wrote out all my Thanksgiving cards, and I only had one left to do. And the one that I had left to do was the one for my wife. And at the time, earlier that day, we had an epic fight, right? And I wasn't feeling very thankful in the moment. So I was struggling with this card a bit, right? So then I had to back up and say, okay, stop. What do I really love and appreciate? And, why did I marry her? And how does she make me feel? And I wrote out this beautiful card. And I saved it because Thanksgiving wasn't for a few days. But the rest of our day went amazingly well. And that night I remember thinking, what if I could do that every day? So I took an empty journal, and at the end of every day, I just wrote down one thing that I loved and appreciated about my wife that day. And it could be something simple, like the scrumptious meal that she prepared, or the loving care she took of our dogs, or overhearing her giving support to a friend, or even just walking in the kitchen and seeing her and how she struck me in the moment. I just wrote it down secretly. She didn't know I was doing it. And I did it for an entire year. I filled the journal up cover to cover. And at the end of the year, it was Thanksgiving again. I put it in a big bow on it, and I gave it to her as a gift. And she started to read it, and she cried and said it was the best gift she ever got, which was saying something, because 4 months earlier was her birthday, and I gave her a BMW. Which struck me as like, wow, I could have really saved a lot of money there. So I told my friend, I said, why don't you just for 30 days, okay? Just for 30 days, write down one thing that you really love and appreciate about your wife. And just do it in secret. Don't tell her you're doing it. So he agreed to do it, and it literally 2 weeks into it, he calls me, he's like, dude, you won't believe how much she's changed. I told you he was a boob, right? He said, we've never been closer, we've never been more intimate, we've had the most amazing conversations. I've never been more in love with her than I am right now. You see, when you change how you look at a situation, the situation changes, right? And so this is what I encourage you to do. Whatever it is that you're struggling with that is difficult for you, I want you to think, how can you see what's positive about that? And just track it for a little while and see what happens to show up. This is my beautiful bride there. Now, behavior repeated become habits, okay? Take a single behavior, repeat them over time, and they become habits. And this is really the core of the entire operating system of what it's going to take for you to be successful are your habits. Habits is the central line of code in your operating system. When you repeat a behavior, it develops what's called a neurosignature. In your gray matter, which is very malleable, it develops, in less technical terms, a brain groove, okay? The more you repeat a pattern, the more that signature gets stronger and stronger and stronger, so that ultimately you can do it without thinking about it at all. And what happens is that these habits, they start out like cobwebs, but then they become thick as cables. And it takes about 300 repetitions of not doing the previous habit and doing a new one to weaken this one in order to strengthen another to replace it. And willpower does not work. The reason why we have the largest diet industry in the history of humanity, and we've never been more fat in the history of humanity, is because they rely on willpower. Willpower doesn't work. Instead, what you need is why power. What I mean by that is, let's say I took a 300-foot steel beam and I laid it on the floor of this conference hall. And I said, if you just walk on top of it from one end to the other, at the other side I'll give you $20. How many people would do it? Yeah, it's an easy $20, right? But what if I took that 300-foot steel beam and I put it atop 2 100-story buildings? And I said, if you walk across the beam, I'll give you 20 bucks. How many people would do it? But what if on the other building is your child, and the building is on fire, and if you don't go across that beam, they will perish and die right before your eyes. How many people go across that beam now? I did have one person in the audience say, I have 2 children. Which child? The first time I asked you, you said, no way, no how. The risk, the danger is too great. The second time, you shot your hand up, and I didn't even offer you 20 bucks. The lesson here is, when you can figure out your reason why to do something, and it's urgent, it's compelling, it's powerful, it's desirous deepest into your core, you will overcome almost any how. It is not a matter of how for any of you in this audience for your great success. It is a matter of why. And if you get your why so urgent, so important, nothing, and I mean nothing, no circumstances, no naysayers, no rejections, no failures, nothing will stop you from getting to the other side. So that's the reason why inside the Living Your Best Year Ever, we help you get clear about what your reasons why are. Because it's what you're gonna need as you start trying to change your habit structures. Because trust me, changing your habits is hard, difficult work. It's as difficult as trying to get off of substance abuse, because your previous patterns are constantly pulling you back into the stream of its normal pathway. So inside the compound effect are strategies for you to uproot your bad habits. By the way, I heard that if you get Success Club 5 this month, you're actually getting a copy of the compound effect, which is super cool. And inside there are 7 ways to install the success habits that you need to take you in the direction you want to go. So what's the last line of code? What's the last thing that determines whether you can get to the other side of all the ambitions, goals, and desires that you have in life? Ultimately, it just comes down to time. Time is what allows the compound effect to take effect, to show you visibly the extraordinary outcome of those sustained positive choices. But I'm going to give you one last warning, and it's this. This is where most people fall and fail. And if you master this skill, you can beat anybody at anything. This is a belief that my father instilled with me. He says, no matter how experienced, how skilled anybody is, you could beat anybody at anything if you just outlast them. Because most people will drift, right? It's the whole tortoise and the hare story. The hare is faster, more skilled, more experienced, but the tortoise beats it every time. Not because of how fast they started, right? It's never about how fast you start. At the beginning of the race, it's clustered and all these people are all fired up and everybody's gonna set new records. It's how long you last. And there's just a few people that ever get to the other side of the race. And this is what I want to encourage all of you to do, is to worry about how long you last more than how fast you start. Consistency wins every single time. Now I want to give you, I have just a few minutes. I want to give you one last principle, because somebody asked me, is there anything you can do to sort of accelerate this process? And I said, well, really, no, but there's one thing that you could do to really crush it. I mean, to really take leaps ahead of your competition or your contemporaries. And here's what it is. And I learned it when I was in real estate. I went to a seminar, I first got started, 20 years of age, no business being in the real estate business, just a brand new newbie. And I took the seminar leader out to lunch and I said, dude, tell me, what do I got to do to be successful? I'll do anything. He says, anything? I said, I'll do anything. He says, then I'll give you the #1 tip for you being successful. I said, I'm ready. He says, go fail. I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, go fail, go fast, and go fail big. I'm like, dude, I thought the whole idea of success was avoiding failure. And he said, no, it's quite the opposite, in fact. And then he gave me this quote from Thomas Watson, who said, the key to your success is massive failure. Now, don't just hear that as a motivational quip. What if that's true? Let that marinate on your brain for a second. The key to success is massive failure. I mean, just like building a muscle, right? The key to growth is massive, repeated failure, bringing it to the point of failure. Now, I can see by the looks on your face, I had the same look when he said this to me. So he drew out this little analogy that I want to pass along to you, because I think it can make a profound difference on how you go forth after this meeting. He said, life is like a pendulum. And on one side of the pendulum is pain, rejection, sadness, and defeat. On the other side of the pendulum is love, joy, happiness, and success. He said, if you just stand still, you won't experience any pain, rejection, and sadness, but you won't experience any joy, love, and happiness either. You can't live under a bridge. Ultimately, you got to mix amongst people. And so what ends up happening is people end up finding this comfort zone. They're only willing to experience so much pain, rejection, and sadness, so they only experience so much joy, love, and success. And this ends up becoming their comfort zone. And anything outside of that, they immediately retreat back into their comfort zone. He said, now, you really can't push the pendulum on the side of success. You must have went to a Jim Rohn seminar. What you pursue will elude you. The one side you can control is the side of failure. So your job is to push the pendulum on the side of failure, rejection, defeat, and sadness as hard, as wide, and as often as you can. And I promise you, it will swing back on the other side. So I took them at face value. I said, all right, I have nothing to lose. So in the real estate business, there's a few places you can go get a lot of pain, rejection, defeat, and sadness really quickly, okay? One of them is in the with expired listings. These are people who had their house on the market with another agent that didn't sell, and 20 agents descend on them by about 6 o'clock in the morning. By the 10 or 12th call, they are mad, angry, and upset. Lots of pain and rejection to be had there. Once I finished with all of those, bright and early in the morning, then I went to the place that brings shivers down spines of realtors. And there are these people called for sale by owners, FSBOs, right? They hate realtors so much, they wouldn't even think of listing their house with one. Knock on a few of those doors, lots of pain, rejection, and sadness they had there. Then I would park my car at the end of a street, take a little notepad, put 50 check boxes on it, and just go door to door in a white shirt and a tie. Right? People love that, right? Knock, knock, knock. Do you plan on buying or selling a house? And next, slam! Dogs chasing me down the street, kids throwing rocks at me from across the street. Every time somebody told me no or slammed the door in my face, how did I feel? Check. Great, one more from being done. This sucks, right? Then I would go home and 5 to 9 was money time. And I would just sit in a chair, strap myself in, a glass of water, no getting up to go pee, and I would just cold call for 4 hours straight. Just repeated rejection and defeat and sadness. I pushed the pendulum on the side, high and wide. Now, as he promised, I went into an office of 44 veteran agents, 20 years of age. No business being in the real estate business. And in 90 days, I had more listings and more escrows than the entire office combined. As he promised, it swung equally on the other side. You see, some of those expired listings says, hell, you're just as good as anybody. Some of these for sale by owners said, for crying out loud, if you show up here again, I think I'm gonna shoot you. Just list this damn thing. Some of those people that I knocked on the door says, we're just thinking about what this house is worth. Why don't you come in and tell us, have a cup of tea, dear? Some of those people I called said, yeah, our daughter's looking for a house right now. Call her right now. You see, I just increased my odds of finding the success where the pendulum swung on the other side. And even to this day, if I get to the end of the month and I have not had some sort of embarrassing, awful, or defeat or failure of some kind, I am mad at myself. Why? Because I want more success than I have right now. What's the key to it? More failure. So if I go through the whole month without failing, I know that I have not increased my success. You see, when you adopt this understanding and this mindset where you take the thing that you fear and you turn it into fun, when you decide to not accept but to love failure, here's what I want to tell you. This is my last comment that I really want you to get. The only thing stopping you from realizing your potential, and trust me, you are a fraction of it right now. The only thing is fear. And when you turn fear into fun, when you take the thing that you're trying to avoid into your pursuit and you celebrate it, you remove the stopgap to your potential. And I'm telling you, you become unstoppable, right? So instead of having a contest for how much success you can accumulate, new coaches that you recruit or product revenue, here's what I want you to do instead. Make a 100 no club and a contest and see who can get to 100 no's the fastest. And whoever gets there wins. And then there's a booby prize. The booby prize is who has the most embarrassing, heart-stomping, gut-wrenching story of defeat. Whoever is the best story wins. Put him on the shoulder, carry him around. I'm telling you, when you turn it away from fear and make it fun, and you pursue it instead of trying to avoid it, It releases your potential. It accelerates your success, and nothing can stop you. So the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is today, draw a line in the sand, resolve. This is it. You've made resolutions, you've made goals, you've gone to conferences, you've listened to CDs, read books before, you made some decisions, but today, it's not a decision, it's a resolve. And when you get up from your chair, you're stepping over that line. I will not live as I have lived before sitting in this chair. I will make positive choices, I will stick to them. Nothing will stop me. Look, see the building of your Beachbody business as this giant mountain in life. When you go back to your home and your communities and your neighborhoods, you're gonna start climbing this mountain. And people are gonna come up to you, people who say that they love you and support you, friends and family, so they go, what are you doing climbing that mountain? You know, you have a job, you're not gonna have a job in this economy. Get off that mountain before you get hurt. And you're gonna have to look them in the eye and you say, you see this mountain? I'm going to the top. And you're gonna climb up a little bit further, and then some people are gonna, on Facebook or college chums, and, you know, I heard about that mountain. That mountain, I think it's a scam. That mountain's a scam. I shouldn't be climbing that mountain. You know, I'm just here to protect you. You really shouldn't do that. And you're gonna have to look them in the eye and you say, see this mountain? I'm going to the top. And you're gonna climb up a little bit further, and people will come out of the woodwork like, okay, man, if you're so intent on climbing mountains, I got a much better mountain here. It's faster, the compensation is better, and all the rest of that. And you're gonna have to look them in the eye and you say, you see this mountain? You're either gonna see me waving from the top or laying dead on the side. I am not coming back. It is the last attribute you need to accomplish any dream, hope, or desire that you've got. And I hope that you take it to its ultimate level. Maybe one day we're knee to knee because we're presenting you on the cover of Success Magazine. Thank you all very much.